Hi everyone, it's Karen here. Welcome, it's day 7 in our 24 days of tags for this year, and today I've got something snowy, a bit like the weather outside here in the Northern Hemisphere. And I am reminded as I'm showing you this, that for the next few tags at least, I'm going to do something a bit brighter and sunnier for our friends who live in the Southern Hemisphere, because it's bright and sunny for them. But back to here, we had a real snowstorm on Friday, which is a bit surprising. But here I've got something snowy with our little pheasant in the front. I want to share with you how to create these hills and snow at the bottom, but also how to create a little bit of a rainbow. So this could be the morning sunrise, or it could be a rainbow. So that's the sort of the theme or the idea of today's tag. I'm using all Lavinia stamps today. I've got fir cone, I've got the pheasant, and then I'm using some of the snowflake bling from this set. The colours that I'm going to be using for our little mini rainbow or mini sunrise here: candied apple and mustard seed, blueprint sketch around the edge, black soot to emphasise the snow at the bottom, and then tumbled glass for the background to start. We are going to be embossing this fir cone with white embossing powder, and I am going to be using my stencil brushes to create the background. So we will get started. The tag size that I'm using here is 6.5 centimetres by 12.5 centimetres, and then I've just snipped it. If you haven't seen how I created those, please watch some of my earlier videos. They are all on my YouTube channel, and I'd love it if you joined me. So I'm going to take tumbled glass to start with, and my stencil brush. And I'm going to use a bit of acetate to protect my work here. That's better. And I'm just going to place this tumbled glass over the top part of my tag. You don't have to be too careful. It's quite a light colour, but you don't have to be too careful. We're just putting down a little base of colour, because as you saw, we're going to put lots of colour on top of it. But I do always move it in a circular motion, and I do always start off the edge of the tag. Then I'm going to bring in my mustard seed and candied apple. So mustard seed, I love it. It's a lovely bright yellow. And for this one, I'm just going to gently bring it across the middle of the card. As simple as that. You don't want it too prominent. Again, just this one as well. Just a hint of this candied apple underneath it. If you were going to do a rainbow, then do it in a bit of an arch shape. As I said, my thought with this when I started was to create the morning sunrise. So that's it. Something simple just like that. Then I am going to take my pheasant, and I'm just going to pop him into the card. For that, I am going to use Nocturne in VersaFine Clair to give me that lovely crisp image that I'm after. Right, so I've got something on my stamp. I'm just going to quickly wipe that off. That's the beauty of our stamp presses here, they enable us to get a nice crisp image every time. So there we have that one. And then I'm going to take a piece of paper, thin copy paper will do, and I've just torn it off. I'm going to turn my card upside down. I'm going to use a smoothie. Now you can use a blending brush, and I'm just going to gently, you don't want too much ink on the bottom of your sponge, and I'm just going to gently flick ever so lightly. You hardly see it's making a mark, but when you lift up your paper, you'll see it has made a mark. And I'm just going to angle it in different ways to create this texture in the background. Just like that. So you can play around with that as much as you like. Then before we go too much further, I'm going to emboss, stamp and emboss my little fir cone stamp background. Do you know what? Before I do that, I might put my blueprint sketch around the edge. So here we go. I'm going to pick up my blueprint sketch. Just seeing how dark this is. There we go. And again, you see I'm moving this in a circular motion. And I'm giving it a very broad frame here. And I love using this darker colour. You can use any dark colour, frankly. Darker colour around the edge, because it really makes the white show up. And so you might say, well, why did we put the tumbled glass in the background? But it just gives you that different touch, because otherwise you'd have a really white, stark white card underneath it. So you can see what it did look like before was we had these two bands of colour across the middle of the card. But now with this lovely broad frame, it all looks part of the same design. And it looks as though it's just in the background. Now, for those of you who've been stamping for a while, you could just turn off for a minute, but I often have ladies at my workshops saying, my goodness, I can't get to grips with embossing. So here I'm going to just show you a really foolproof way of getting a nice crisp image every single time. I'm going to use one of these little pads. It's filled with French chalk, and if you just dab it all the way over your design, it's going to leave a thin film of chalk over your design, taking away anything that's stuck to it. If I've got any inky fingers, any oil from my fingers that's transferred, it's taken that right away. I'm going to ink up my fir cone stamp. And I'm just going to hang this branch from one end of the tag to the other, just like that. And I'm going to bring in my white embossing powder and just sprinkle it over the top. So now I'm just going to heat this embossing powder, and I'm going to start with a warm heat gun. Then I'm going to emboss from the back. That way some of the crystals adhere to the card, and then I'm going to come to the front and backwards and forwards like that. That way the embossing powder doesn't get too hot and you don't land up burning it on the front. So there you have your nice crisp image. I'm going to take some white paint and I'm going to water it down so that it creates me nice splatters. Loose wrists so you get some lovely splatters. All over your design. And I'm just going to mop this mess up, otherwise we will end up transferring that onto our tag, and we don't want that. And then last but by no means least, I'm just going to apply my tiny little snowflakes in and around the bottom of my tag. So as I say, if you don't have exactly the same stamps as me, don't worry. Improvise. And I've loved seeing what everybody's been making in the group. So as I said, this is day 7. We go until day 24. I'd love it if you carried on tagging along with me. There we have day 7. Here is my original, which was a little lighter for my little rainbow or sunrise in the background. And then I just adhered some wool and sheer ribbon for the top of it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow. Bye for now.